Hello teachers of Newcomers, here's another quick lesson where all you'll need is paper and pencil, or if you want you could use a whiteboard. Actually you're going to need a book as well. Any book in any language of any length will do for this. Before I also start, let me remind you, if your student is like a second grader who's never been schooled, something this length is going to be a little too long, so you adjust it as you see fit. And these lessons should be carried out over several days. So if the student's a little older and seems to be getting the pronunciation well, you could go ahead and do all of this every day. But if they're a little bit younger and having a hard time pronouncing words or writing so much, then break it up into chunks, all right? Our objectives are gonna be a few vocabulary words. We're gonna talk about 2 order words. So we're gonna talk about first and last as order words. And we're also gonna be strengthening primary language, or else using a decodable in English. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a book, and it could be maybe the student in their primary language is reading, let's say they're in 8th grade, they're reading like Harry Potter or something really long, that's fine. If not, if you have a book in English, any book is fine as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my book. So I just took a big book, Chrysanthemum. It doesn't have to be a big book, it could be any book, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say the title of my book is Chrysanthemum. You're going to put the title here, and you're going to put capitals where they need to be. You have a lot of highly literate newcomers who they will get it like this, especially with the cognates like title, if they speak a language like Spanish, but they don't know the rules, the capitalization rules that we have in English. So it's always important to make sure you're capitalizing correctly. The author is, and then you're going to show, okay, Chrysanthemum by Kevin. You're going to do that whole thing with them, right? The author is blank. The book has blank pages, so then you could go ahead. Doesn't matter what language, doesn't matter how many pages, but you're going to go ahead and find a number. Let's just say there's 6 pages. My book has 6 pages. If you can, put the actual number and write it out, 6, S-I-X. If it's long, that's okay. There are blank sentences on page blank. So then you're going to have the opportunity to pick a page. So let's say this is page 12, right? So let's say there are blank sentences on page 12, and you're going to count the sentences. And so this is an activity you need to do with an open book with the child, right? So you're going to go ahead and say, okay, here is 1 sentence, because we see a period. And even if you're talking to yourself, even if they're not really inputting much, you're letting them hear you, right? And remember, you're doing this several days. So here's a period, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 sentences. So there are 6 sentences on page 12. There are blank words. Now, obviously, if it's like a Harry Potter type book, it's going to be tedious, should I say. There are blank words on that page. The first letter of that page is, so here in my Chrysanthemum book, the first letter, the word is she, so S. The first letter of that page is, and then S. The last letter of that page is, so I'm going to the last letter, and it's L. She said, she writes dreadful, is L. The key always is with the newcomer, everything you've written, you're going to read it 3 times with they're going to read it with you. The title of my book is Chrysanthemum. The author is Kevin Henkes. My book has 6 pages, and you're going to do that 3 times with you. Afterwards, they could do it more times with another student, by themselves. Another trick to often use is I have the kids go to the corner with whatever they wrote, because they should be writing this down as well. You could write it, but they could write it as well. And they go to a corner and they have to read it out loud by themselves 3 times, right? That way they're getting used to speaking in English, and it's a safe way to practice words without too many people hearing them. Even with the full classroom, you could teach them how to speak in a soft but audible voice. The author of this book is, so you kind of teach them to do that. They could do it with a friend, they could read it to someone for homework, okay? And here are the key words that I've used for this. Like I said, you could use some, you could chunk it, do some at a time, and repetition is everything. Thank you.